Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of, what day is this? It is Tuesday, July 30th. My name is Jim Lehan. I'm joined by my fellow associate, Mr. Roach. Anita Mecklenburg is on through Zoom. She is out of town at the moment. We're also joined by our Fire Chief, Mr. Kinney, Assistant Fire Chief, Mr. Kelly, Michelle, Chief Hines, Dr. Drolet. We have a crowd of quite a few here. And of course, the Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator, we're grateful for everybody showing up. This is a one agenda item this evening. We're just going to give you an update. I think people know that there was some rather interesting changes that were announced, it seems like months ago, but I think it was just last week, regarding the shelter that we have here in Norfolk. We had a meeting on Thursday with the state to get clarity. Pretty much everyone here was on that meeting. So Ingrid is not with us this evening because she was not on that meeting. She was unavailable. So Dr. Drolet was on the meeting, so he'll fill in for both parties this evening. So we're just going to give you a recap of what we know. We are not going to have Q&A this evening. There won't be any questions from the audience. We're going to tell you everything we know. If we haven't been able to tell you this evening, the answer is probably we don't know. If there are any questions that you might have from anyone watching or otherwise, that you feel you would like to ask that we haven't answered that's relevant to what we've said this evening, just please send an email to the Town Administrator, and he will pass it on to the appropriate parties to get you an answer as quickly as we can. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if you would stand and join me in a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we're going to start this with Justin is going to give you an overview of sort of the strategic change that's taken place with the state, and then we will each of us talk about the various parts that we all participated in during the conference call, and hopefully we can at least tell you what we know and what direction we feel we're headed. So, Justin?
Public comment?
There is, I apologize, yes, there is an opportunity for public comment. Does anyone wish to speak? Mr. Burns?
Where shall I go?
Grab that chair right there and just turn them.
Is this an option?
Right there's fine, absolutely. Sorry, I apologize.
Great.
That's what happens when you don't have an agenda in front of you.
Paul Burns, 32 Union Street. A month ago, I came before you and made a statement. The theme of that statement was, I question, as in I question what we can really believe. The theme of tonight's statement is focused on the word bungle, which means to carry out a task clumsily or incompetently. Some examples I have witnessed. Stating that children from the shelter would not be in our schools, only to retract one day later with, Norfolk welcomes all children. Bungled. Focusing on the welfare of the migrants to the point where it overshadows the welfare of our residents. Bungled. Allowing a superintendent to serve as moderator when he opened with, how can we donate? And could not read the room enough to sense that people were becoming eager to speak while he prattled on. Bungled. Not stating in detail exactly how residents will be kept safe, such as through increased police patrols of X%. Bungled. Including a link on the official town website to a group known for welcoming the shelter and not allowing a link to a group that opposes the shelter. Bungled. Putting out a press release with a link that doesn't work. Bungled. Running on a platform of time for a change and then not changing anything or even speaking much. Bungled. Writing an embarrassing, chastising email to our state rep. Bungled. These are just a few of the things that I know about. I shudder to think of the level of bungling that has occurred on the weekly calls with the state, which have not been open to the public. Pardon me if I remain skeptical when there has been so much that has been bungled.
Any other public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none. Justin?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So based on our Thursday's meeting with the state, we got the high-level, overarching change in policy. It essentially is focused on the Bay State facility is going to turn into a temporary respite center, and that's what the governor's team is classifying it as. Essentially, there's going to be two options for families who enter the emergency assistance housing system. The first option, if someone who's seeking assistance, if they were to choose to be housed at the overflow site, they would only be allowed to stay for 5 business days. And if they do choose that option, they would not be eligible for other assistance for 6 months. If they choose an alternative solution, they would forego housing at the temporary respite center. They would go through the normal process of determining their eligibility for emergency assistance, and they would have access to stabilization services such as reticketing, and the state has mentioned that's anywhere in the U.S. for anyone, and they actually and home-based services. But they've had people request to, return to their country of origin as well. So they did let us know those options. I did get clarification today from Tyler and the state that people who do choose to be housed at the temporary respite center at the Bay State, they are all eligible for stabilization services as well. So that includes home-based and services and relocation services. Something that they emphasize is heading home will remain the site provider on site. What was to be done in 30, 45 days, they'll essentially try to intensely rehouse people within 5 business days. After their time at that center is up, they will be transported to Boston to one of the local Boston Welcome Centers, where they'll have those services available to them there. They are currently working on an overall policy in terms of that, and we've asked from the town to give us an updated FAQ and information regarding their policy. We will obviously, as soon as we receive that, post that on our town website. Overall, that's the change in policy that they outlined. I think we were told on Tuesday, right before it was released to the Boston Globe, that we would not have any students in our school, and Dr. Drolet is here. He can talk about that a little bit further. In terms of our press release, we got clarification late Wednesday evening, and we clarified that statement along with other municipalities, if you'll note in the Globe article. So that's what we did because there was a misclarification initially, and it was clarified. That's the update that we had overall. I think we'll have our police chief and fire team, as well as Dr. Drolet, talk about some of the other things of our what has been the impact to the town so far, and moving forward, we understand it's fluid, and what our strategy is moving forward with the state there. That's the update from that meeting.
Kevin, you were not able to participate in the call because we're not allowed to have more than one of us there. Do you have any questions, Justin, or anything you want to clarify?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Chair, one other clarification. This has been a question that's been asked several times. With a 3-member board, select board members cannot be on the same calls with the state because of quorum issues. So the chair has been the primary point person in the select board. We've always had our police and fire chiefs and education officials as well. There are monthly briefings that are allowed to further participation for select board members, and our select board members have been shared that invite. That invite has been shared with them, and there is one coming up in August 7th, so I'm sure they will take the opportunity to attend that meeting.
Anita, you are on there. Do you have any questions for Justin on what he said, or any further comments on it?
No, not at this time. I think that it was really clear about what the impact will be to the town. And I think once August 1st happens and the reality of how this 5-day model works, which we don't fully understand, we'll know more. But I appreciate his summary.
Okay. All right. We'll, Chief, you have the end of the table. We'll start with you, sir. So if you could update us on your experiences so far.
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick rundown. For us at the fire department, obviously when we first got word of the overflow shelter coming, we reached out to other organizations and other departments, Foxborough, Plainville, We have had talks with Bellingham, even though they don't have a direct shelter, but they were impacted by the Franklin shelter running mutual aid. We also were able to speak with Cambridge and also Lexington. So in doing that, we kind of were able to get a heads up on what to kind of expect, and also kind of map out what our needs were based on what those potential hazards or issues were. So we knew to expect a small uptick in responses to the location. Throughout our situation has remained very fluid, and I'm happy to report to you today that the impact of overflow shelter has been minimal to non-impactful. The reason I say minimal is because we've run 11 calls to that facility since being notified that it was going to open as a overflow shelter. Of the 11 calls, we've had 6 fire alarms, 2 caused by cleaners when they were prior to it being inhabited. We had 4 fire alarms that were due to actual children pulling the pull stations. And then we've had 5 EMS transports from the location. Fortunately, we have not encountered or had any issues where those responses have negatively impacted our community, either by creating a delay in response or a lack of resources. We have not had that issue or encountered that. We have worked with the state to provide a private ambulance on site from 8 a.m. to noon. The other thing that we were able to do, because of the management of the shelter site and the site director from Heading Home, we have been in communication with Mr. Jeffrey regularly. We've conducted a couple fire drills there. We've been able to meet some of the occupants as well. And that has all gone very well. I do believe that, part of the reason for this positive report from us is because of the site director. He's done such a good job being open and transparent with us. Anytime we've had any type of issue, we've been able to call him directly. For instance, the fire alarms. After we had the second one, we were like, hey, we got to do something here. We don't want this to become a common thread. So as of today, all of the fire alarms have now had tamper glasses or tamper alarms placed on them. So, and the residents have also been advised by Jeffrey that they are responsible for their children, and if their children pull the alarm, they will lose that privilege and be dismissed from the facility. So we have not had any more alarms since that last instance, and since obviously the alarms, the tamper-proof or the tamper switches have been installed. So the impact for us has been minimal. It is very fluid. Obviously with the changes, there may be some adjustments, but we do have the freedom and liberty to adjust with Jeffrey, the on-site, and the private ambulance service, which is provided through Coastal. We are able to adjust that time as needed. If we see a trend or see calls happening in a certain cluster of time, for example, we're able to adjust those hours in which they are on site to best benefit the town and to make sure it doesn't deplete our resources. So from our perspective, the things that we've asked for and the things that we requested to make sure that we didn't have a negative impact on our services to the town have been implemented and have been done. And again, it remains very fluid. We have the Thursday updates. We're going to have a meeting, to discuss, what our needs may be or what they may look like, with the new model that's being put out there. But for the most part, we have had very limited impact from the facility.
Great, thank you. Anita, questions?
No, I want to thank the chief for the update, and I have been checking in with Justin, the town administrator, about how things are going, and it seems like it's been rather seamless, and I'm grateful to the state for providing the extra ambulance support that we requested, and am proud that that is something that has been uniquely available to our community and reflects the leadership of this community. So thank you, Chief, for the work that you're doing, and no, I don't have any further questions.
Mr. Roach?
None at this time.
Chief Hines.
Yeah, so when we did learn that the shelter was coming to Norfolk, I had an opportunity to speak to my colleagues throughout the state and ask them what their obstacles were, impacts to the communities, and how they mitigated them. We took that, our team took that, and then we developed some questions for State Police Colonel Mon, who I had a long discussion with before this went online. He was very receptive to our concerns. He understands, because he came himself from a small community, started out policing, and he knows the impact and what can happen to a small community with this type of facility. So he was very responsive and stated it is a state police facility, state land, state-owned, and the primary law enforcement agency would be the state police. I was happy to hear that from him. At that point, we met with his command staff. We met with the commander of H Troop, which Norfolk is a part of, and also the commander out of the Foxborough Barracks. Right then, we came up with a strategy on a co-response model, how we were going to respond to the facility. And again, one of my biggest issues was that I did not want Norfolk officers tied up on that facility for a long term. We're there to assist. We're not there to do any long-term investigations. We're not there to do non-emergency calls. We are strictly responding to emergency calls. And then at that point, we, will whatever our response there, and we will turn it over to state police when they arrive. I've also been in contact with our mutual aid partners, Walpole, Foxborough, and Rentham specifically, because they're closer. They have our operational plan, and all the chiefs in response to they're more than willing to assist us however they can. So far to date, down at the since the opening date of the facility, we've had 2 calls for police calls, and there were abandoned 911 calls. We were on scene for a minimal amount of time. Those were cleared as accidental calls. And other than that, we do respond with the fire department on any emergency that they are responding to down there. So, with this model that we developed, it is fluid. We are going to monitor it, and we are going to change it if needed or decrease it if needed. But right now, in the past, we have gone to minimum manning during the summer, especially when it's it's vacation season. But we're not doing this until we get a good grasp on exactly what the impact it will have to our department. Our main goal is not to minimize any services that we provide for the town currently, and I believe with this model, we're doing that right now. And the team, the chief spoke of down at Bay State, has been more than willing to address any issues we may have had, and very open with how they're operating down at the site.
Kevin? Anita?
I just want to compliment the chief on the steps he took proactively to make sure that this transition to this impact to our community was as smooth as possible. And I'm grateful for the trainings that have happened and the communication that's happened. And I'm pleased that they've managed to make sure that this does not affect our residents in the way that was feared. So thank you very much for your efforts, and we're very grateful for you.
Chief, it's safe to say that any emergency call that you have that involves the fire department, one of your vehicles goes with it, no matter
Exactly.
where it goes.
No matter what.
So whether it's at the,
Yeah.
down there or to
Anywhere
any
in town.
resident,
Correct.
please go with them. So just so people understand that. That's normal practice for us. And patrols have remained the same. There's been no shortage, no change, no, in either case.
No, so, as I said, normally we might go down to a minimum staffing depending on availability of officers, but we're not doing that. We're going to fully staff all replacements, and to make sure that, we get a grip on what the impact it will have to us. And that's also so we don't, so we can provide the full service that we normally do to the town.
There were some reports regarding car break-ins. Can you just comment on that? Because there had been some speculation that involved the migrants, and that was not the case.
So that was not the case. We spoke, our detectives spoke with the director down at the facility. All residents, they do have a fob system that they come in one way and out one way, and they are, in order to do both of that, they have to go through a fob system. And the last resident was in there approximately 8 p.m., and the first one out in the morning was right around 7 a.m. So, unfortunately, we are victim to this type of activity, car breaks or stolen cars, and it seems to be around the summertime, but 2 or 3 times a year. And sometimes it's just organized crime groups that come in, they hit the area, and then they leave. The night before that we got hit, Franklin was a victim of car breaks. And there have been other throughout the area this summer. So it's not unique, it's just not a one-time thing. It happens, unfortunately, frequently. And, we do our best to mitigate and prevent it from happening, but.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Dr. Drolet, thanks for being here.
Sure, thanks. So Rich Drolet, King Philip Regional School Superintendent. Dr. Alardi couldn't be here tonight. We did speak earlier today with the DESE representative. So I'm speaking on behalf of both of us, so I'll just share some updates. So just in terms of, we're still being told by the Department of Ed representative, we should not expect to be receiving any new students associated with the shelter based on the changes made at the state level. However, we did feel it important to send that out because it's a possibility, but I'll get into that a little bit. So we're not expecting any students now. What we're being told is the main change is the heading home site provider will be working with families during the 5 business days, mostly on just where they're headed after that. Previously they were going to work with us on school enrollment, but that's not going to be happening anymore. They will be available to speak to a family on their educational rights. In terms of the changes, again, we're not expecting any students. However, if in those 5 business days a family were to go to enroll their children in the Norfolk elementary schools or King Philip Regional, we would have our McKinney-Vento homeless education representative speak to them. That typically takes time. We might need a translator, so it typically takes up to 10 days, but we would work with them, determine have they been in school previously, where are they going to be in 5 days. They would most likely go to school wherever that is, but there is a possibility in those 5 days that they could enroll in our schools, and there's a process with the homeless education liaison to work with families if that were to happen, which we're being told by the Department of Ed representative that that most likely will not happen in any cases, and we should not expect any new students. But the site provider would communicate with our homeless education liaison if there was a family seeking to enroll students in our schools. The call today was just about funding, so we did receive confirmation today that they will fund the 3 teachers that have been hired. We had hired 4, 2 in King Philip and 2 in Norfolk Elementary. One of them in King Philip fell through. So the 1 in King Philip and the 2 in Norfolk Elementary, the Department of Ed said they will pay for those for this year, as we had already signed contracts. If other than that, they did clarify that if we were to get any new students associated with the shelter, that the $104 a day per student would go off the top of that. So, to begin to pay for those positions, if we were to get any students associated with the shelter, it would go first towards those salaries. She also clarified both districts had submitted grants, so King Philip Regional will still get our $20,000 McKinney-Vento grant, as the justification they shared was that we already had a qualified number of homeless students, primarily based on some we have still attending at the Plainville shelter. However, Norfolk's would not be receiving that grant unless they were to receive students, but Norfolk Elementary could be reimbursed for any expenses they've spent this summer, which could include if they met with contractors or renovations to the school building from that previous $250,000 that was promised. Other than that, as always, we'll follow state guidelines. There's many we already have some homeless students in our schools. We do deal with this, and we'll deal with situations on a case-by-case basis with the homeless education liaison if any families associated with the shelter were to go to enroll their students in our schools. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. This is obviously unprecedented, so we're, information's changing, and we're doing the best we can with the information we have.
Kevin?
No.
Anita?
I appreciate the update, and I'm pleased to hear that we are being reimbursed for those positions that we have hired, so that is very good news. And thank you for representing both districts. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, so when we originally were told of this issue, we were told that we should not expect any students, and we reported that accordingly. We're well familiar with the federal law regarding homeless. The state has taken a position that their definition of immediate is to get it done within 10 business days. We are following the state guidelines. So I'm trying to just use my language on it. So if a family were to come to Norfolk and they were to request within those 5 days for a student to be enrolled, we would enroll them in compliance with the law.
Most likely, the homeless education liaison would meet with them and determine, yeah.
And other than that, the normal process that was established prior to that would be they would have been enrolled within 10 days. You were doing it on a weekly basis, if I recall.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
so that's, just to clarify that, where it comes. The state has taken the position, and those of you that were at the educational forum, that question was asked and was answered directly by the state, and they referenced it that accordingly, that is the position they've taken, which is, by the way, completely logical when you consider there is a language issue, there are a number of considerations that take place during that first 4 or 5 days. Any other questions? Yes, Justin?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think Dr. Drilly covered it, but I think we want to emphasize on why we also think with the change in the policy and the model, previously, there was going to be a case manager or liaison working with schools to register kids and enroll them in our schools. With this new policy, that is not going to be in effect. It's completely removed there. So that's one additional change that we expect limited to no enrollment there. There is one other thing that I did not mention, but I believe everyone's aware. August 1st, the new policy goes into effect, so obviously we'll be able to see the impact of that policy. But for existing occupants at the site, they are grandfathered into it. So they are potentially working on depopulating that site over the month of August, trying to aggressively find housing for them during that period, with the anticipation that they will be rehoused before September, before school starts, and that's what the state has said, and that's what Heading Home has said.
Right. What I was told about the grandfathering in for those who had arrived prior to the last group of people coming before the state changed the guidelines was 30 days. So the Department of Ed representative assured that for people that were grandfathered in, they would still be gone from the shelter by 30 days before school starts.
All right. I don't know that we know anything more than that at this point in time.
We don't have any other information. We have, as I mentioned before, asked the state to provide an updated FAQ regarding the policies. We'll post it on our website. I think we've tried to be, as responsive with the information that we get, putting on our Facebook and our town websites. We will continue to do that. And I think the board has, indicated they'll have select board meetings when necessary to provide information. But that's the information that we have at the moment.
Chiefs, any additional comments, thoughts? Anything we missed in terms of what you currently are experiencing or know? Dr. Drolay?
No, I was told we should be getting talking points from the state as well, and once we do, we'll put those on our website.
And again, just to restate that they have committed to reimbursing us for costs that we've already incurred.
Correct.
For contracts that have been signed, based on the old strategy, which really will no longer be part of the new strategy. But they're under contract, so we have to honor those contracts. Justin, anything else?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. We are not going to take any questions tonight, so if you have any questions, feel free to email them to any member of the board or to the town administrator. And we'll do our very best to answer them, but that's the latest and greatest that we have. So, thank you for joining us. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
Oh, Anita?
Second.
Technically, Jim roll call, because she's remote.
Anita, I'm sorry?
She
I seconded the motion.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're on vote Zoom, so we need to do that through a roll call, if I may. Sir? Kevin Roach?
Kevin Roach. Aye.
We'll get there. I know, it's a new experience for you.
Yeah.
I know it is. Anita Mecklenburg.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Chiefs, thank you very much. Dr. Drolet, thank you for joining us.